Video 1. For many parents and professionals, autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, can be a confounding and complicated condition to deal with. The good news is that we now know more about it than we did a few years ago. As a society, our understanding of ASD has evolved. So too has the way the disorder is defined, diagnosed, and treated. Autism research has advanced in recent years. For example, healthcare personnel and researchers have a much better understanding of people's cognitive process with autism spectrum disorder and how they see and interact with the world. This helps them to apply this knowledge in coming up with appropriate interventions. Another example is using brain imaging technologies to understand functional and structural development in autism spectrum disorder. Many factors influence the development of autism spectrum disorder, but no single cause has been identified. There is a genetic aspect to autism. However, it is still not clear how many genes are involved. It is believed that several genes may operate together to make one susceptible to ASD. In case you were wondering, no, autism is not caused by poor parenting. And yes, let's get another misconception out of the way right from the start. Several studies have shown no link between being vaccinated and developing autism spectrum disorder. Hello, and welcome to my channel, Parenting Autism Today. Knowledge is power, so today I would like to share 10 things to know about autism spectrum disorder. I hope that by the end of this video you will have all the information you need to empower yourself to be correctly informed about autism spectrum disorder. Let's get right into it. Number 1. Before the DSM-5 definition. Autism spectrum disorder used to be known as pervasive development disorder. These two terms mean it can both be used to describe the condition. Pervasive development disorder is the diagnostic classification in the 4th edition, DSM-4, of the most widely used diagnostic manual of mental disorders. It was published in 1994 by the American Psychiatric Association. In the 4th edition, pervasive development disorder included 5 categories, namely Asperger's disorder, autistic disorder, Rett syndrome, childhood disintegrative disorder, and pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, or PDD-NOS. Number 2. The DSM-5 definition. The 5th edition was released in May of 2013. In this edition, the term autism replaced PDD. Furthermore, there are no categories under ASD in the 5th edition, meaning that everyone meeting the diagnostic criteria will fall under this one autism spectrum. Why was this change made in the 5th edition? After the research was done, it was found out that the categories under pervasive development disorder cannot be readily distinguished. So, what does this mean? It means that the different types of autistic disorder, pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, and Asperger's disorder will no longer be used. Instead, the diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder will be used to cover the entire spectrum. Number 3. In layman's terms. So is he crazy? Is he retarded? That's what Tom Cruise's character Charlie asked the doctor about his autistic brother Raymond, played by Dustin Hoffman. The movie is of course Rain Man. Autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental disorder and is defined by consistent challenges in social communication and social interaction accompanied by restricted, repetitive patterns of behavior, activities, or interest. Number 4. Diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. How and who? The diagnosis of ASD can be challenging since there are no medical or blood tests involved. However, diagnosis can be made with greater certainty due to more sensitive and more accurate diagnostic tools. ASD diagnosis is based on behavioral symptoms or features that include absence or delay in normal developmental milestones and the presence of ordinary behavior. In the TV show Touch, the autistic character Jake has an extreme aversion to physical contact. He does not make eye contact even with his own father and shows no interest in other people. In the film Rain Man, Dustin Hoffman's character Raymond avoids eye contact, does not like change, engages in repetitive behavior, and takes things literally. Diagnosis of ASD can involve a process in 2 stages where the first stage is screening via validated screening checklist that the parents fill out. Step 2 is a diagnostic evaluation that is often conducted by a multidisciplinary team. They gather information from interviews and structured observation. Experienced professionals can make ASD diagnosis as early as 18 to 24 months of age, but the norm is usually diagnosed between age 3 and age 5 or later. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that all children between 18 and 24 months be screened for autism spectrum disorder. Number 5. ASD diagnosis, social communication. Autism spectrum disorder signs can usually be seen in early childhood, though they can be easy to miss. Some of the social communication signs in toddlers include limited use of gestures such as clapping, pointing or nodding their head, delayed speech or no babbling, making odd sounds or the toddler has an unusual tone of voice, difficulty making eye contact, sounds, gestured or words all the same time, very little or absolutely no pretending or imitating other people, stopping using words that they used to say. They may use someone else's hand as a tool. For example, putting someone's hand on a jar for them to open the lid. Number 6. ASD diagnosis, social interaction. Some of the social interaction signs in toddlers include not looking right at people, not sharing warm, joyful expressions, not responding when someone calls their name, not drawing your attention or showing you things they're interested in, not sharing enjoyments, interests with others. Number 7. ASD diagnosis, repetitive behaviors and restricted interests. Some of the repetitive behaviors and restricted interest signs in toddlers include moving their hands, fingers, or whole body in unusual ways, developing rituals, for example, lining objects up or repeating things over and over again, for example, switching lights on and off over and over again or repeatedly opening and closing doors. He or she could be overly focused on or attached to unusual objects like strips of cloth, wooden spoons, vents, rocks, or doorsteps. He or she has an excessive interest in or fear of particular things, activities, or actions that interfere with everyday social interactions. For example, being afraid of someone wearing earrings. They may have out of the ordinary sensory interests. For example, licking or sniffing particular objects or looking out the corner of their eye. Overreaction or underreaction to some sounds, textures, or any other sensory input. They may have an unusually high pain tolerance. Number 8. Autism spectrum disorder is not a death sentence. Though ASD is still thought of as a lifelong diagnosis, people with this condition can lead inclusive, productive, and fulfilling lives with the right early intervention. Many children with autism spectrum disorder do well in school, participate in activities they like, go to college, and are even employed. Dr. Temple Grandin's life was adapted into a made-for-TV movie, which went on to win an Emmy. Dr. Grandin was an animal behaviorist and university professor with ASD, and in 2010, she was listed by Time magazine as one of the 100 most inspirational people. Number 9. Where to find information about autism spectrum disorder. Many people have erroneous information about the disorder. Members of society must get the facts about autism through reliable and accountable resources. Examples of such resources include the CDC, Autism Society, Autism Speaks, and Autism Now. The links are in the description box. Number 10. George. A documentary titled George is quite educational regarding the real-life highs and lows of being an autistic child. George is a 12-year-old boy. He often gets stuck on words. When he is frustrated, he sometimes throws small tantrums. The documentary sheds light on how a high-functioning child with autism behaves. He maintains a relationship with his family members and friends. He does care about people and does understand social cues. He is verbal, smart, and talented, although he tends to get stuck on some words or subjects, and he is also unable to understand some emotions or the concept of empathy. And there you have it, 10 things to know about autism spectrum disorder. But don't stop here. Take the initiative and keep learning about this condition. There is tons of credible information available, and as I said at the beginning of the video, knowledge is power. Empower yourself. I will leave you with a quote from the documentary Normal People Scare Me. Taylor is a teenage autistic boy. At the end of this 10-minute documentary that Taylor directed, his stepfather says, "I don't like the word normal. Because what's normal? I think it's a connotation that we all live with, and I think for quote-unquote normal people, it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous term." If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell. Rest assured that many more videos are on the way. Be sure to like the video and feel free to add any suggestions you would like to see in the comments section.